the sound that so poignantly defines the meaning of Anzac Day. The Last Post, played at the beginning of dawn services across our nation, and at the Shrine of Remembrance, Melbourne's most recognised landmark. The shrine's design was selected by competition among Australian artists and architects. Of 83 submitted, the winning design was by Melbourne architects Philip Hudson and James Wardrop, who appropriately were returned servicemen. There are 140 services held at the shrine every year, and all are as equally important to those attending them. But undeniably, that innate sense of Aussie and Kiwi patriotism is nowhere more apparent than at the Anzac Day dawn service. The shrine's official opening took place in 1934 and was attended by 300,000 people, an extraordinary number given that the state's population at the time was under 1 million. But public support for a memorial to commemorate the enormous loss of life during the First World War was overwhelming.
As the morning sun rises and sheds light on this magnificent shrine behind me, the word has us all standing side by side to remember exactly that throughout our history, Australian and New Zealand servicemen and women have stood side by side in harm's way.
When the shrine was built back in '34, that they had the presence then of putting a buttress group into peace and goodwill. I mean, we all understand the shrine as a place to commemorate service and sacrifice through conflict and peacekeeping, but peace and goodwill is a very important statement about what the shrine is and why it exists. So it's just part of the symbolic story of the shrine. And the other thing that should be remembered with the building of the shrine, most of the funds came from public donation. And indeed, Victorian school children contributed the equivalent of $400,000 in today's terms. It now is a place of commemoration for all Victorians and Australians indeed that have served in all wars and in peacekeeping up to the present day. The building of the Visitor Centre gave us enormous capability to undertake much wider public education. And so what grew out of that was an education program linked to the curriculum for Victorian school children, temporary exhibitions, improved permanent exhibitions, public lectures programs, and indeed now we're involved heavily in outreach programs, not only to schools, but through our travelling exhibitions and our public lectures into regional Victoria.
The 25th of April 2015 will mark the Anzac Centenary, and to commemorate that historic event, the Shrine of Remembrance will unveil Stage 2 of a $45 million redevelopment.
The redevelopment, which we call the Galleries of Remembrance redevelopment, which enables us, to ensure that we can meet the growing requirements for school groups, 50,000 school children now. That will grow, we anticipate, to 80,000 school children by the centenary of Anzac. And indeed to cope with the additional visitation, 600,000 now. We anticipate that'll go to 900,000 by the year of the centenary. The other important element that we, as part of our centenary program, will be our travelling exhibition. That will open here at the shrine on the centenary of the start of World War I in August 2014. It will then travel right through to 2019, right throughout country Victoria, to the big communities and the small communities. Because when you consider, in World War I in particular, that those small communities contributed enormously to enlistment, and you only have to visit those towns and see their cenotaphs and see the names on the cenotaphs to know the impact that World War I must have had in big communities and small communities.
In keeping with the high-tech world in which we now live, visitors to the Shrine's Galleries of Remembrance will next year be able to access the names of all ex-service personnel on screen.
Currently in the sanctuary of the Shrine is the memorial books that records the name of the 89,100 Victorians that served in World War I. And what we propose to do as part of the gallery's development is to digitally record the 368,000 names of all Victorians that served in World War II, as well as in the Vietnam and Korean War exhibition, we'll record the names of the 10,000 Victorians that served in Vietnam and the 3,500 that served in Korea, so that all Victorians who served will have a place in their Shrine of Remembrance.
Remembering the people at Fort 100, remember my grandpa.
I'm now starting to appreciate actually what they've been through, and I really appreciate what they've done for us.
First time you've been here? I think so. Is it? You think so? What did you think, getting up so early in the morning in the dark to be here?
I think it was motivating to be out to Anna, so to show that you really care.
Just to hear the anthem, it's touching, isn't it?
And for me, my late husband served in the Second World War, so it's very emotional. It's beautiful services.